Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. A lot of things happened in the last 24 hours that connects us to Bengal. One is what happened in Oxford University College called Kellogg College, as well as what happened in Washington, D.C., where there was a congressional hearing on what is happening to the minorities of Bangladesh. To talk about all this and more, let's meet with Utsav Chakrabarti. Utsav, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar, Sree, and happy to be here again.
Thank you so much, Utsav. You were at the ringside. You put together this event on Capitol Hill. Talk to us a little bit about what happened there, and then we will go up to the more fantastic, more louder, rambunctious version of what a meet is in Oxford a little bit later. Over to you.
Thank you, Sree. I was happy to be here 2 weeks ago to discuss briefing on Pakistan and the minorities in Pakistan. And within a very short period, within 12 days of that, we organized another congressional briefing on the rise of radical Islamism and Chinese influence and minority oppression in Bangladesh over the last 8 months or so since the regime change. And this briefing was very well attended in terms of the audience and staffers. We had also members of Congress attend. A couple of them attended, but we had quite a few staffers, about 7 or 8 of them, and we also had about 80 people in audience, and most of them Bangladeshi Hindus who came all the way from New York. And the videos of this briefing were seen. They were one of the most watched videos in Bangladesh on YouTube. And more importantly, this briefing was so discussed. People we know are part of the quote-unquote American deep state that was involved in regime change in Bangladesh 8 months ago, people who are part of the 𝗤𝗎𝗄𝘗𝗏𝗲𝗏's core network of advisors, they were all commenting on it and targeting this on the day and the day before this event happened. So in a way, it was successful because it sent the right message to the lawmakers, and the content of the briefing was very, very good, and it came out really well. We are very satisfied with it. We had a lot of feedback on that issue, and the primary carry-away points, if I may put it that way, from the event was that Congressman Sree Thanedaar for the first time called for banning Jamaat-e-Islami and declaring it a foreign terrorist organization, which is something that we'll be continuing to pursue in America. We are going to call for a congressional hearing, oversight hearing in the House Foreign Affairs Committee to ensure that all the funding and the actions of our State Department and the White House during the last 8 months are brought under oversight, and where the money went, who it went to, why it went to, is openly discussed and put on record. And that's the next goal that we have set for ourselves, to have that hearing in the Oversight Committee. And then the more important long-term project that we are hoping we will be able to achieve is that all international funding to Bangladesh should be linked to de-radicalization of their Islamic education. See what has progressively happened, and this is not something happening just under Muhammad Yunus or in the last 8 months. This happened even during Sheikh Hasina's time. And what happened was that there was a rapid radicalization of the education system in Bangladesh that created conditions for the rise of the quote-unquote students who were essentially radicalized Muslim youth, and the rise of Hifazat-e-Islam and Jamaat-e-Islami both. So we want any future aid to Bangladesh from Western countries, especially America or multilateral agencies, to be combined with a monitored, internationally monitored, American monitored de-radicalization program. So that's another thing that we are calling for in the long term.
Thank you so much, Utsav. The takeaway here is that there is going to be more focus and more spotlight is going to be on some of the radical elements in Bangladesh to make sure that this doesn't get out of hand. But Utsav, tell me something. Bangladesh was created for, Bengal-speaking Muslims, but the Bengal and the Bengali culture was the nucleus around which this country was formed, I thought.
Yes.
Has Bangladesh moved away from that?
Yes, significantly. I want to shed some light and discuss some nuances of what has happened over the last 25, 30, 40 years. so when Bangladesh was created, it was created primarily on the reason that Bengali language and Bengali culture is derived from Sanskrit. And one of the biggest anger points of the West Pakistan army and the West Pakistan, Islamists, along with the Bangladeshi Islamists or the East Pakistani Islamists, Jamaat-e-Islami was still part of the same game those days. Before 1971, their biggest complaint was that they were unable to eradicate the Bengali language and by extension culture, and by extension the Hindu faith that both are inexorably connected to. And that was the reason why the genocide happened. It was based on the basis of the Sanskrit roots of the Bengali language. But eventually what happened is that in Bangladesh after 1975, after Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was assassinated and after the country fell into the hands of more Islamist elements progressively, first Ziaur Rahman, and then later Hussein Ershad, military dictator, the entire society kept moving slowly and steadily towards Islamization. Whereas the assumption in India and amongst most of Indians was that Bangladesh was created as a separation point from Islamism, which Pakistan promoted, and therefore that country is now going to be less Islamist. Well, that didn't last too long, and so the Islamization kept happening. The Hindus were kept in a very subdued role. They were forced to leave the country, so the Hindu population kept declining. It's a vicious spiral that has been going on since the 1970s, late 70s, and it continued all the way to 2004, 2005, and 2007, where by that time the country reached a point where the entire society was radicalized. The people were losing, even the Bengali language got co-opted into radicalism. So the tactics that the Islamists started playing in Bangladesh is that instead of saying that they reject the Bengali language like they were doing before when they were part of Pakistan, they said that Bengali language now represents Islamism. So it was a very good tactical move. If I were the Jamaat-e-Islami or the Islamists, they started co-opting the language itself, and the results of that were seen in West Bengal. In fact, in West Bengal, there were a lot of Bengali intellectuals who started repeating the narrative of Jamaat-e-Islami from Bangladesh, where they started saying that Bengali language is actually owned by the Islamists, and started alluding to that narrative, which is having very bad effects in the Indian side of Bengal as well. So this is a very nuanced thing that we as a community have to understand, and we have to continue to highlight the fact that Bengali is, as a language, derived from Sanskrit, which is the point that the Islamists hate to declare themselves with. So,
but my friend, so is Punjabi.
And that's true. But so in Pakistan, in Pakistan, the Punjabi language is now a language that is owned by Islamists, and they have disassociated it from its Sanskrit roots. They really see it as a language of the Muslims, and that is happening in West Bengal, in Bangladesh also. They're disassociating the historical roots of the Bengali language, and it is happening as we speak. So now suddenly, as UNIS comes to power, you have an entire society where there are millions of young people who speak Bengali, but in their hearts and minds think that they are children of the Arabs and the Persians and the Turks, just like in Pakistan. And that is the reason why Bangladesh is so dangerous and a threat to that entire world as an Islamist nation that's becoming.
Someone should show them the mirror about how the real Arabs treat Bangladeshis and Pakistanis when they come to their land, about their Islamic roots.
No, see, that is true, and that is an experienced, it's a lived experience that many Bangladeshis who live and work in the Middle East have. They know that they are treated as second-class, quote-unquote, Muslims. But the problem is that they still continue to hold on to their supremacist ideas. And in relationship to the native Hindus, who are the natives of the land, they're the children of that land, they still think of themselves as being of superior ideology and superior narrative. And that is the reason why we have so many atrocities. And it's you can see the radicalization has taken itself to a point where the issues that West Pakistan had with Islamists is now becoming the issues of Bangladesh, where it's not just Hindus who are the targets or Buddhists who are the targets. It's also the Ahmadiyyas who are the targets. It's also the Shias who are the target. So the pattern of hate that radical Islam brings is being exhibited in Bangladesh. Today there was a news about in Somalia, there was a huge ISIS base that was targeted and destroyed just today. And amongst the passports of foreign fighters they found, ISIS fighters they found in Somalia today, many of them were Bangladeshis. So when 𝗠𝗢𝗙 𝗍𝗏𝗏, now that she has access to all the intelligence that America has, when she was saying that Bangladesh is a center of global Islamist caliphate and it is becoming that, she was not wrong. She was not exaggerating. This is exactly where that nation is heading. And the implications of that are really bad, not just for Hindus in India or Hindus in Bangladesh. It's bad for America. And that's what our briefing was all about. That's what Michael Rubin, that's what Chris Blackburn, that's what our speakers, including Muslims from Bangladesh, spoke about.
Well, that was wonderful to know that people have that big picture in mind, not just like, my religion first and everything else later. That humanity is come first. That has been my underlying, emphasis on PGurus, that you have to treat each one as a human being first, and then everything else comes into place. Utsav, you kind of segued us to a very interesting event that took place in Kellogg College in Oxford, where Mamata Banerjee, the Honorable CM of West Bengal, was there. I don't know, probably quoting investment or I don't know what. I mean, all of them get this urge to travel abroad, especially to those countries which seem to coincidentally have a lot of connects with tax havens. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that there's a factual matter here. But I'm just going to play a video for you, for our viewers, Utsav, on what went down. It seems like the protesters were from the Students' Federation of India, which is a CPI students' wing. It seems. I'm not 100% sure. You can throw more light on it. Let's first take a look at what happened. Here we go.
Where you have to allow the people to lose sleep.
You kill Abhaya.
Don't behave like this.
You kill Abhaya.
Behave like this. It is a misbehaving.
This is not Calcutta.
Okay, so two things already. He said you were behaving like goons, and he says this is not Calcutta. I can play on, but essentially when somebody gets a taste of their own medicine, it doesn't taste so good, does it, Utsav?
Well, see, the thing is that the politics of West Bengal has become such a cocoon where these kinds of vandalism from one particular political party has become so commonplace that it almost never makes it to the news. And if you remember back during assembly elections as well as during Lok Sabha elections, West Bengal was one of the highest fatalities in terms of the people killed and targeted during election violence.
Right.
So it's so tragic that these things continue to happen in West Bengal more and more year after year. And I think it was natural that when Mamata Banerjee was in an environment which was neutral and which was away from her stronghold, where there were no people to bully people around and beat them down to submission. I think there were enough people from different political persuasions, I believe, who spoke up. And I don't think that in any forum this should be done. So I would never say that this is the right thing to do in a speech or in an environment which is in an academic setting. But I think this is something that Mamata herself has green-lighted and promoted so much in her own domain that inevitably it was going to blow back outside her domain. And that's what happened.
I mean, in terms of a fallout for her back home, I don't see much because this is not BJP that was doing it. This was a small splinter of party that's seen its best days.
Well, the fallout of this is that it's a bad image for Mamata.
Yeah, bad optics. Correct.
Yeah, it makes Mamata look bad in front of her supporters as well, because the perception that Mamata's supporters created in West Bengal is that she was invited by Oxford University. She's going there as a special guest. She's going to bring the moon and the stars and everything else in between. So that perception will get broken because the venue was so small. it was almost an event that somebody set up within the premises of a small college, which is part of Oxford, and it was a private event, more likely. So that will be a big that will not help her out in West Bengal.
Well, we'll see how this plays out in West Bengal. Certainly, this time around, I think she's going to face a much tougher election. Although, again, there are other things like voter intimidation that needs to be the primary thing that needs to be taken care of. We'll wait and see how that goes. Utsav, we have a few questions, if you don't mind.
Sure, absolutely.
Here. Sanjay, thank you so much for your super sticker. Live and Let Live wants to know, in Bengal, Malda again, Muslims vandalize one village. I'm not sure what BJP or central government is doing.
So see, Bengal has a real problem, and I will actually give you a very interesting anecdote that once a very senior security official from Bangladesh who was in DC once in a think tank conversation had with me, and that will tell you how bad the situation is in West Bengal. I was complaining to this person who was in Washington DC at a think tank that this is bad in Bangladesh. I gave him like names of 3 major Islamist terrorists. This was happening in 5-6 years ago, and this gentleman got back. He said, "Which part of the world are you from?" I said, "My parents, my family is from West Bengal." And he immediately shot back. This guy is a Bangladeshi security official. He said, "There are more jihadis in West Bengal that we are looking for, that Mamata Banerjee has given shelter to, than there are in Bangladesh. So why don't you go and take care of West Bengal first?" and to be honest, there is some truth to it. West Bengal has become a haven for radical Islamists. More and more, demographically, it is becoming a very unsafe place, because given the trends in the growth of Islamists in Bengal, demographically, it's becoming an unsafe space for India as a country. So I'm sure that the government of India, as well as India's national security apparatus, is fully aware of it. And they are doing things. I'm hoping they're doing things to take care of it. But at the state level, I'm hoping that people in Bengal, especially the Hindus who are still in majority significantly, make themselves aware of the threat that they and their future generations face, and they come together to make their elected officials respond. I can assure you, if the population of Bengal tomorrow becomes more Hindutva, which it is becoming actually slowly and quite progressively, even Mamata Banerjee will not take much to change her tone. We have to understand that unlike the Marxists, Mamata is not an ideological person. She is just like other politicians, opportunist politicians from India, who are genuinely dependent on vote bank politics and will go to any length to appease certain communities for their vote bank. And it is true not just in Bengal, it's true about Uttar Pradesh, it's true about Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, you name it. Tamil Nadu, that you have already spoken a lot about. So this is the larger problem that we are dealing with, and I think in the long run, it's the people who have to rise to the occasion and make their leaders do what they need to do. And that, you can see that in Uttar Pradesh. I mean, places in Uttar Pradesh where Hindus could not walk on the streets after 6 o'clock in the evening are much safer now. And there are bulldozers running around all over the place.
Thank you so much. Next question, please. Live and Let Live wants to know, sir, even BJP media is showing the real picture. If media shows booth committee members had at least 2 to 3 crore house, sir, why BJP media is not exposing? BJP and Mamata are hand in hand.
I think that's a question that BJP folks in India have to answer. I am in Washington, DC. So I think I'm not in a well-informed position to answer that question. Neither do I have any communication with anybody in the leadership level of BJP in India. So I think that's an answer. I understand your concern, but that's an answer that somebody from India has to respond to. I can generally talk about Hindu issues affecting Hindus in America and around the world, especially in Bengal and Bangladesh. But that's the limitation of my expertise, if I may put it that way.
Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Thank you so much. Creative Soul, thank you for your super sticker. Nam Amor, I don't know, this Nom Anor, I don't know what that means. Why does India have, I'm sorry, I'm not able to pronounce your name correctly, Nom. Why does India have such bad relations with its neighbors? This allows China to move in.
Well, this is a very good question actually that I need to address, and I think I will have a slightly longer answer on this one. See, India has multiple neighbors, many of whom used to be part of India at one point. So there are two types of neighbor India has, and those that are small, friendly neighbors with a lot of historic and cultural connections, and those that used to be part of India and became separate from India out of animosity. So, and Pakistan is a very good example of that. To some extent, East Pakistan and certain Islamist-ruled Bangladesh also is in that bag, barring Sheikh Hasina and Mujib's party. So there is a historical animosity that these people carry towards India because they used to be part of India and they are, ideologically opposed to India. So that is one of the reasons why we have bad or sometimes bad relations with many of these countries. Now, in terms of China has a unique ability to spend a lot of money and get a lot of things done cheaply. So what China has been doing historically in many parts of the world is to offer a lot of money, sometimes as soft loans, sometimes as hard loans, and sometimes just bribing their way to the top. And the scale of money that China has spent, given the size of its economy that it has developed over the last 10-15 years, is sometimes way more than what India can spend. And therefore, China often comes out as looking like a country that has more leverage in India's neighborhood. But that inevitably falls apart in the long run. And if you see Sri Lanka, that's a very good example to look at. Sri Lanka is a country that eventually got beholden to China to the point where its economy completely collapsed. And it was only India that bailed that economy out. And at this point of time, India has a tremendous amount of leverage over Sri Lanka. So you can pretty much foresee that happening to other countries as well. And therefore, this China model is not a long-term lasting model that will work. It eventually will come back to India, and many of these people will be favorable towards India in the long run. Other than Pakistan and Bangladesh, which have a whole different ideological issue that we are dealing with. With respect to Pakistan, I think India and Pakistan historically, they cannot be together in the long run. The reason for that is very simple. Pakistan as a country cannot exist if it stops hating India. It's as simple as that. The whole nation was created out of simply one reason, that it hates Hindus and India. The moment you stop doing that, you are essentially creating no reason for that country to exist. So no matter who rules Pakistan, no matter who state comes to power, whether it's the army or the civilians or the army pretending to be civilians, doesn't matter. They will have to hate India just to exist as a nation. So I hope that clarifies some of the points.
Thank you so much, Utsav. Viewers, come back at 9:30 tonight, India time, to listen to Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar talk about Balochistan, because it is now at a point where things are beginning to happen very fast. But there are some challenges for Balochistan also. Can it be a free nation? And what are the challenges? What are the impediments? Can India help them become a free nation? Is there some other, are there any other planets that need to come together for that to happen? All that will be discussed. It's a very different perspective from what everybody has been talking about, because General is looking forward. What happens next in Balochistan and how that will in turn trigger the breakup of Pakistan, maybe. Because Sindh is ready. Sindh is not said much, but Sindh Desh is ready. This is the surprise. Many people are thinking that, oh, there is nothing happening in Sindh. So just listen to all that stuff. It's a fascinating story. So come back. But before that, Utsav, thank you so much.
I just want to say one thing about Sindh, Sree, if you have a minute. Just a couple of months ago, I met some people from Sindh who were visiting America, and these are locals from Karachi and local assembly people in Sindh politics. And one of the things I got out of the conversation when we were talking is that the Sindhis really don't want to fight. They were pretty open about it. They were like, we don't want to fight, but we really don't like the Punjabis. And they were quite open. I mean, I am a Hindutva guy from Indian origin, sitting in America. So they didn't even hesitate to hide that from me. They were like, yeah, we hate the Punjabis, we hate the army, we hate the Pashtuns. So literally, Sindh doesn't like everybody else around them, and they do perceive themselves to be culturally more sophisticated than the rest of the Pakistan. And so I think, you when you made the point that Sindh is ready, I do believe that there is a big segment of population in Sindh that really wants to get rid of. They're like, just create a separate country with Karachi as the capital, and that's it. I mean, we'll be happy. I think that's what many of them think.
Right. So thank you so much, Utsav, for that update on that also. So viewers, please come back and listen to General Ravi Shankar in a few hours from now. Thanks once again, Utsav. We'll be back. We'll carry some of the speeches that were delivered in that congressional briefing in the next few days. Thank you so much, Utsav. Namaskar.
Absolutely. Namaste. Namaste.